Here's our flyover, folks. This is the B-25 from the Champaign County Air Force Museum. This is the official welcome. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, honored speakers, representatives of government, members of the clergy, civic organizations, security, safety, and law forces, and my fellow Americans. On behalf of the Freedom Grove Committee and the Urbana Rotary Club, I'm Terry Rittenhouse, and I'd like to welcome each and every one of you to Freedom Grove, a place of remembrance for all who have sacrificed for freedoms and a collaboration of people who hold most dear the beliefs for which our forefathers fought and still today our sons and daughters fight to protect all around the world. We have come to dedicate a portion of this field as a final resting place and a permanent repository for this steel beam artifact recovered from the ruins of the 9/11 World Trade Center site. On this day, it becomes our World Trade Center Memorial in our Freedom Grove Park on this 10th anniversary of the tragedy now known all over the world as simply 9/11. This monument that we dedicate today gives visual witness and silent testimony to the dark and destructive forces unleashed on the innocent by those who would make war on the very foundations of our American beliefs. It will forever stand among us as a sacred memorial to the sacrifices made by our generation for freedom. It will serve also as a warning to those who come after us that the freedom that we enjoy and some take for granted has been paid for in sons and daughters. And we leave them this marker of our times that they may remember and be ever on guard for the cause of freedom. We have with us today some very special people who represent some of the many families, groups, and even countries affected by the World Trade Center, Pentagon, and Flight 93 attacks. They have come to speak to you about the thoughts and feelings of the people that they represent. But first, let me introduce to you Reverend Tim West, retired of the Episcopal Church of the Epiphany and also chaplain of the Urbana Fire Department, who will ask the invocation, followed by the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base Color Guard, who will present colors. And then please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and the Star-Spangled Banner performed by the Champaign County Senior Center's Guys and Dolls Chorus under the direction of Jacqueline Howe. Reverend West.
Best, I think. Miss Lennon.
Please join me in prayer. Calling to remembrance the great love with which you sent your Son, our Savior Jesus Christ, to redeem us and all humanity. We commend again this day our departed sisters and brothers to your all-merciful care, knowing that you are doing for them now better things than we can either ask or imagine. Today we remember their sacrifice and honor them for it. May they be restored in your kingdom, where, as the holy prophet Isaiah tells us, you wipe the tears from all faces. Finally, help us who remember and honor them today to use their heroic sacrifice redemptively, so that unity, humility, and self-sacrificing service may become the distinguishing marks of our lives. We ask all this through the one whose life and atoning death was a sign of your plan to reconcile all things, your Son, Jesus Christ, to whom be glory, honor, and worship now and always, and unto the ages of ages. Amen.
I'm gonna get to getting back
Thank you, Reverend West. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance in remembrance of those who suffered in the air and on the ground, including our own Champaign County daughter, Alicia Titus, whose parents and family are with us today. As well, we remember those first responders who honorably gave the last full measure of devotion in response to the attacks and the ensuing rescue action. And now the pledge.
Halt. Halt. Read them. Halt.
Please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You know, freedom always has a history. There stands behind me 10 monuments, each in remembrance of a great trial and a great war and a great suffering by our people. Each one of these monuments is so dear to us because each one of them was paid for also in sons and in daughters. We look around this park that has been built by the hands of our folks here in Champaign County and even beyond. And we're so grateful to know that freedom still lives on in Urbana, Ohio, Champaign County, and in America. And we're so thankful that you could come here today and be a part of it.
Very good.
At this time, we're going to welcome Rotarian Judge Roger B. Wilson, who is also singing with the choir, and he will speak to the history of Freedom Grove in his address, Freedom Grove Recounted. He will then introduce our keynote speaker and guest. Judge Wilson.
Yeah, the good.
Thank you all for attending today. Today, across this great country, many ceremonies are being held to mark the 10th anniversary of that tragic day when our nation came under attack. Around the world, there are 1,183 artifacts being installed in memorial ceremonies, and we're privileged to have one of those very few worldwide situations. Freedom Grove in Urbana is a fitting place for this community to have a memorial ceremony. After the terrible events of September 11, 2001, the Urbana Rotary Club conceived the idea of creating a place where the community could reflect on the freedoms this great country has to offer and honor their heroes who have sacrificed to maintain those freedoms. In a short while, you will hear a stirring musical rendition of America the Beautiful. There are 4 verses, each has its special meaning. The words of the third...
The entire Urbana Rotary Club, who have been with us every step of the way, opening doors and making the way straight. I think you will agree with me that much has been accomplished in a very short time. It's been my pleasure to work with such dedicated individuals and to know that this level of integrity, competence, unity, and commitment still exist right here in America in Champaign County. You know, the Freedom Grove Committee, we made some big promises on a national level on behalf of our entire community about how we would honor and what we would do if given the opportunity. We knew that our belief in our community was well-founded. We've been overwhelmed by community support and business support, from the design of the memorial to transportation of the beam, from excavating of the grounds to fabricating a base for the steel beam and the steel stars for the memorial, to pouring concrete and gravel. And many have come forward to donate or discount services and materials in the spirit of honor and remembrance of those who perished on 9/11 and those families who continue to fight the war on terror. These donors gave willingly from their businesses and personal resources to see this worthwhile project through to completion. And I'm going to read some of those names. Aesthetic finishers finished the stars right here and buffed them to just the most beautiful shine. And I've got to tell you a little secret now. This is just between me and you. But if you come up here to the monument and you sit at the base, the image of the monument lines up perfectly in the center of the stars and is a fabulous picture. I encourage you to see that. Because of the work of aesthetic finishers, we're able to have that for ourselves. Don and Jane Bauer just gave and gave and gave, and Bryce Hill Concrete, Debbie Hill, all this concrete you see here, and Burton's Landscaping and Champaign Rent all just gave us whatever we needed, any type of equipment, anytime we needed it. Dale Circle Family Farms and the Rick Cole family, they gave us trucks and dirt and straw and materials and just, again, whatever we needed. Evans Electric, the family of Ed Evans, you know, with the power requirements, and the Grimes Foundation and the Heritage Cooperative they basically gave us money so we could keep going. Terry and Jackie Howell, I can't tell you how much work Terry Howell has done out here on his own. Jeff Martin Concrete and Jeff Martin both have given. Joe Rees Welding, and I want to tell you a little story about Joe Rees Welding. The time was coming that the monument was about to be dedicated, and we went from extreme heat to rain. The time was growing short, and the day came that we needed to get the monument up, and so that we could finish some of the rest of the work around it. The call was put out to Joe Rees Welding, who had already built the base for us and everything. And Joe's family was leaving on vacation. And Joe said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll move the vacation. And we said, well, Joe, you don't really have to do that, but is there something we could do? And he says, yes, there is. I'll tell you what we'll do. My men and I will show up tomorrow morning at the crack of dawn. And the following morning at the crack of dawn, they were here. They weren't sleepy and tired. They were fully at attention, and they brought their entire family. And they put this monument up because of what they believe in. They held their vacation up by a few hours so that they could come, and they were willing to do it, and they were happy to do it, and they were honored to do it. And that's what we've run into with everybody in here that's given. They're honored to do it. Lee Lavoie and his family came out here and spent 3 weeks building these ripples and excavation of the grounds. Lincoln Professional Services, I know that guy, he put in a little bit. M&K Engineering, Mike and Kathy Bowe with drawings and Maine's Towing. Fred, Kathy Maine went clear to New York, painted their own truck and made it special so that this would be special because they realize what's at stake here. Mike Major. What do you say about Mike Major? See the sculpture, all of the work that's here, Mike and Sarah. McKeever Excavating brought in equipment and helped. Remington Steel with Roy Cole and Harry Osborne. When we decided it was time to make the stars, what one didn't give, the other one did. They saw to it that we had these stars at a fraction of the cost. Robert Rothschild's Farms. See all these flags? Robert Rothschild's farm bought the flags. Dan Rooney family and the Leah Schiffer family made the way straight for us by helping us out. Spriggs Landscaping with Denny Spriggs. The People's Savings Bank provided us with these beautiful programs that we have. Yoder Concrete, Jeff and Roberta Yoder. They were out here with their family. I don't know if you remember how hot it was this year. I certainly do, and I know that they do. They were out here and they did the work. In addition to these major donors, we have a wealth of private donors who've given not only to the 9/11 Memorial Project, but also to Freedom Grove as a whole, buying bricks and stones and benches and trees and everything you see here. And by those contributions, making it possible that this park of remembrance could be completed to this point at a fraction of the normal cost and in record time. But how do you thank this many people? It was decided by the board that we could not thank anyone unless we thanked everyone. So, with the help of the Urbana Daily Citizen, a special World Trade Center keepsake edition was created commemorating this historic project for posterity. Please join me in giving a big thank you to these kind folks who've made it all possible. We now proceed to the unveiling of the World Trade Center monument.
Welcome.
Champaign County artist Mike Major, who has created sculptures for public and private collections across the country, designed and helped build our memorial. He will give us some insight into the artist's vision. In addition, the Reich Trio will perform America the Beautiful as members and representatives of the Champaign County emergency responders remove the veil. Please welcome artist Mike Major, the Reich Trio, and the Champaign County emergency responders.
Good afternoon. The World Trade Center beam and what it represents inspired this entire monument. So the first step in the design was to really understand what it signifies. A lot of thought was given that, a lot of discussion. And what will it mean 50 years from now, this monument standing here? The reaction of our committee, who picked up the beam in New York, as they stayed in touch by cell phone with digital images and comments, was an expression that was very powerful about what that monument, what this beam, this artifact means. They felt, they saw, they shared. There was a spiritual updraft as they transported the beam back across the states to Ohio, to Urbana. The resulting approach was for simplicity to reign, that nothing would stand higher than the artifact itself, but we had to raise that artifact. We built this mound in the center. We were going to make the beam most prominent. So there are 5 elements to this monument. We'll start at the outside. You've noticed that there are corner markers made of limestone at each corner of what would be the trade center, or one of the trade center buildings. So they're 208 feet apart. Within this footprint for both buildings, it's only an acre, and to a lot of us in this wide open country, it doesn't seem like a very large building. I've heard that comment several times. But imagine 110 acres, which is the size of one building, that is the office space. All of that came crashing down in this spot, in a spot this size. 2 buildings would equal 220 acres of destruction, plus 2 aircraft. You'll notice that there's no wall of hatred or indifference around this space. It's accessible. Freedom is vulnerable. The ripples are the next element in. They represent the motion, the impact, and the emotion of the tragedy.
What?
But it cuts both ways. They also represent the ripple effect of all of our actions. Everything we say, everything we do, when we pray, there's no telling how far ripples travel, how much they can inspire. The circle here under the beam represents the globe. It represents human relationships. It represents the circle of life.
No.
The stars were inspired by the American flag, and they represent the Twin Towers. They also represent the spirit of ingenuity. They're light. It's a bright tomorrow. They reflect the sun. And finally, the beam symbolizes our journey together. This beam is twisted. This beam is tormented. It has been through a horrific tragedy. It now represents our spirit, our will to embrace faith, hope, and freedom. It lies down no more. It does not lean over. It stands tall with America. May love and freedom reign.
Titus.
That sees beyond the east, by now the master's city place, haunted by human tears. America, America, God mend thine every grateful thee, and from thy Lord with brotherhood, from sea to shining
Thank you for the right trio, the Champaign County first responders. As you can see, our first responders been tied up a little bit while we are out here today dedicating this thing. Been going by a couple of times. When they told me that this honor guard was coming up, they said, well, you know, not all of them are going to be in dress uniform because we're working today. And there's a lady up here with a pair of scissors stuck in the side of her pants. You can tell that they are ready to go, just like all first responders, at a moment's notice. Please, let's give them a nice round of applause. At this time, I would like to introduce to you John and Beverly Titus, parents of Alicia Nicole Titus, who was a United Airlines flight attendant. Please welcome them.
It's moments like these over the past 10 years where I wish I'd paid more attention in speech class, but I'm honored to be here with you today. I'm especially pleased that with the Urbana community that they have chosen to pay such a lasting tribute to my daughter, Alicia, who died 10 years ago today. What a wonderful vision. Our Rotary Club, all the volunteers and laborers who work so hard to make this happen. The thoughtful and creative design by Mike Majors with special help from his daughter Sarah gives life and meaning to this mangled piece of steel, a symbol of death and destruction that has now been transformed into a symbol of hope as we reflect back and learn from that day. Although I am honored to be here with you for this special dedication, I would rather not be called to stand in front of you for the reasons I am here. On that morning, I drove down the North Territorial Road on my way to work at Schoolcraft College. At the time, I lived in Michigan, but my home has always been here in Urbana area and in Logan County. My children grew up in Champaign County, and Alicia graduated from, she attended Urbana schools, went to Graham and graduated from there, attended Urbana University for a short while and graduated from Miami University. But on that morning, as I was driving down North Territorial Road, it's a tree-lined, beautiful road, I remember thinking, looking at the clear blue sky and thinking, what a gorgeous day this is. And the reading from Psalms 118 came to me. This is the day the Lord hath made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. And that's the feeling I had in my heart. So when I got to work, I had to lead the staff meeting. And I was hectically preparing and was leading the meeting when my coworker came in, turned on the TV and said something about a plane striking one of the World Trade Center towers.
What's that?
She turned it on just in time that I could witness my daughter's murder. The second plane that hit the South Tower crashed into a fiery ball that we've all seen over and over and over again. On my morning run this morning, I was in the woods and just feeling the joy of life and the peace and harmony. When I broke down into tears, it reminded me of the early days when I was heavy in grief. Someone asked me a while back, when did the sadness go away? I said, the sadness doesn't go away. It'll never go away. I honor that sadness because it's the depth of my sorrow and sadness is the height of my joy and love that I had for my daughter. I've learned how to feel joy once again, but the sadness will always be with me, and I'm okay with that. And I do understand why the young lady that lost her brother couldn't be here. I would rather not. I would have preferred to just stay at home and be with my loved ones or go for a picnic or do something else. Losing a loved one to political violence, especially your child, with all the media attention and the eyes of the world upon us, has been extremely difficult, incredibly painful, and utterly exasperating at times. Losing Alicia, a beautiful young woman who inspired hope for a world in which we can all just get along with one another, has been a long and arduous journey filled with sadness, forlorn, desolation, and despair. This has been compounded by 10 years of war as a result of the attack that took our daughter. Someday I hope that we'll look back on how we attempt to resolve conflict in this world of ours and will be appalled. Someday we will realize that all human beings and all of life are deeply connected with one another, much like the cells of a body. Someday we will learn to live in a world that engenders love and understanding, God willing. In my writings after Alicia's murder, oftentimes through the tears of my sadness and pain, I would stop and pray. I would humble myself before God and search for the light of truth and understanding. I envisioned what it might be like in a heaven community, a place where Alicia now resided, a place where love for one another was made manifest, when through the cloud of confusion and the fog of war that raged within and around me, I was able to see clearly what God intends for us. God's providence is always, I repeat, always, willing us to our highest and best person we can be. His love and wisdom is given freely to us, unconditionally and continuously. So how is it that we can twist and pervert this incredible love into something so disparaging, so violent and hurtful? How is it we can be so short-sighted and hateful and destructive with other human beings and somehow rationalize it? Many times out of frustration at the conditions in our world, I would conclude that God must indeed be very patient with us all as we fail to learn from our past and continue to make the same mistakes over and over. Alicia was a gifted, astute, loving, compassionate, and wise young lady. She felt love in her heart for everyone she met and knew how to bring that goodness in the other to the light of day. I had a dream right after she was murdered. In the dream, Alicia and I were together, laughing, talking, and basking in the glory of the moment in the beautiful sunny day. It was near Wright State University where I got my master's degree. All of a sudden, a huge airplane came overhead 50 feet above us and crashed into a tall building nearby. Alicia and I were stunned. We ran as fast as we could to the site of the crash and found our way to the top of the building, a flat roof with a stairwell that went down into the building. From the stairwell, smoke was billowing out and the screams and the moans of the people could be heard below. Without a hesitation, Alicia ran to the stairwell and I followed. She immediately began descending the stairs and disappeared into the smoke and destruction. I went 4 or 5 steps down the stairs. In a few moments, Alicia came back up the stairs, followed by hundreds of people, all with dazed and confused looks on their faces. She led them from this burning inferno into the light of day and beyond. I believe this was the strength of her soul and the gift she was able to give on that dreadful day that emerged from her incredible, compassionate, and loving soul. And I know in my heart this had deep implications for me as well. Alicia is only one of the beautiful souls who died on that tragic day 10 years ago. I have heard similar stories from loved ones of others who also died that day. We lost some wonderful people on that horrific day, loving souls who were doing their part to make this world a better place. When we think about human heartbreak of the day, we can't blame God. This was the evil of the ego mind chooses over good. After something so tragic and horrendous, we must strive to understand the underlying conditions that perpetuate such hatred and violence toward one another. The battle that rages within us and around us also rages within. The struggle between good and evil is a battle that each of us must fight. But we must search for our higher self that comes from God, from a place of wisdom, understanding, love, and compassion. When we are called to action, to right or wrong, we must not allow ourselves to be pulled into the mire and confusion. The dark side of the soul for the temptation is great. If we truly are to follow God's will for us, we must come from a place of light and love, especially when we are called to bring about justice when an injustice has been done to us. I am here today speaking to you as a grieving father who has had a glimpse of understanding and a vision of hope for our children, our country, and our world. I only want to do all that I can to make this world a better place for my grandchildren. One of them's up here on the stage with us today, and their children, so that we don't have to experience the excruciating pain of losing a child the way I have. I am fully committed to this cause, and if we all committed ourselves to this end, we could make it happen. In closing, I would like to share a verse from Ecclesiastes entitled, "A Time for Everything." For everything there is a season, a time for every activity under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to harvest, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to cry and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to turn away, a time to search and a time to quit searching, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be quiet and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. My friends, after 10 years of pain and suffering, 10 years of incredible sacrifice by so many, and 10 years of war, it is time to heal, a time for rebirth, a time to laugh and dance, a time to mend, a time to reflect, and a time to love. It is a time for peace. As you leave today, feel the feelings that this day brings forth. Honor them and use them to grow your own love and compassion for one another. This is the wisdom that comes out of a broken heart. This is God's incredible gift to us that emerges like a phoenix rising from the ashes of Shanksville, the Pentagon, and Ground Zero. I resisted getting on Facebook until just recently, and I guess I'm more of a person-to-person, direct contact kind of guy. But this morning I was given a beautiful gift on Facebook, and I would like to share it with you. Thinking of the Titus family, no words can soothe the pain. Perhaps a gentle breeze, the warmth of the sun, or an unexpected scribbled note that had long been forgotten will help to know that Alicia is not gone, just fulfilling her life of higher usefulness. Our pain endures for a night, but the joy cometh in the morning. I haven't been to convention since it was in Urbana back in 1990. Alicia and I were hula girls. She left a lasting impression on me that summer. A few simple words have stayed with me and perhaps helped me more than anyone would ever know. I basically grew up with Alicia. I saw her every summer at camp or convention, but the last one left a lasting impression. Life hasn't allowed for me to attend camps or conventions since high school. My own selfish anger at God for taking my mother helped keep me away. I didn't know about Alicia until about 5 or 6 years ago. Upon mending relations with my father, the topic came up. I was shocked. You see, my teenage years were very hard. I struggled with an eating disorder and depression. Alicia took the time to help me with my hair and makeup and whispered, "Smile, you are beautiful, both inside and out. Never forget." It may sound silly, but there was a special way that Alicia made a person feel like they were the most important person in the world when she was with them. I would love to give the entire Titus family a big hug. Katie. Thank you all from the bottom of my heart for being here today, for helping us to dedicate this monument. And may you go in peace, and God bless you all. And my wife Bev will now come talk.
I'd like to give a very special thanks to everyone who made this possible, all the love, the energy, the resources, the sense of community that's created this memorial place. Thanks to each and every one of you for being here, for being present with us to remember Alicia, Doug Cherry, and all of those who died, all who were injured and wounded in some way on September 11th, 2001. I wanted to share just for a moment what it was like on September 11th, 2001. I'd come home early in the morning from bringing my grandson back to Ohio. Went to bed and woke up by this energy, this voice that kept calling me and telling me to get up. And I remembered saying, as if I was speaking to somebody, I just wanted to lay there and sleep for just a little bit longer. And this energy and voice literally pulled me out of bed. And I said, okay, I'm getting up. And I got up, turned the TV on, which I rarely did, went and made coffee, sat back down just in time to see Alicia's plane hit the towers. And I remember thinking that I was watching some horrible horror film. It couldn't be real. I sat there in disbelief. And I never allowed the thought to enter my mind that Alicia may actually be on one of those planes. And after a while, I got up to make a phone call to my son. It was his birthday. I called Montana and talked to his mother-in-law, and I said, you will not believe what's happening. They're crashing planes in the World Trade Center towers, and talked to her for a few minutes and then said I would just call Zach back because he wasn't up yet, and I'd wish him a happy birthday later. But it was that voice that awakened me in the morning that I felt was Alicia's. Wanting me to be present with her in the only way I could to witness what was happening. The fabric of my being torn apart into pieces unrecognizable. My life as I knew it was over. But as we come together today, from all walks of life, representing different religions, economic backgrounds, and a rainbow of color of humanity. As we stand on this common ground, and we join together on this sacred place which connects us to our humanness. It is my hope that this very, very special place become a space where we can meditate, reflect, pray, and remember that connection that we all share, that thread that weaves together the fabric of our lives, that runs through each of our hearts, where we carry our pain, our grief, our sorrow, our compassion, love, understanding, joy, dreams, and hope. May our hearts carry us from this place, and may we hold in our hearts that thread that ties all of us together as human beings. In late September of 2001, we had to go to San Francisco, where Alicia had an apartment, and pack up all of her belongings, everything that was left for life.
Well, it's safe to be called.
And on her bedstand, there was a book with special sayings and quotes, and it was earmarked. When I opened it up,
What?
it was the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi.
Down the crop.
Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. And I will end with that. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon.
The wish.
Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is sadness, joy. O Divine Master, grant that I may not seek so much to be consoled as to console,
Right.
to be understood as to understand,
You will go out, right?
to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. It is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Thank you.
Thank you, John and Bev, and the entire Titus family for coming today.